Alright, so in a previous video of mine, I talked about how the Legacy Megazord is a bit overhyped in comparison to the Hasbro basic Megazord. And was it going to be worth money to chase it down when you have a perfectly good Hasbro Megazord here? Like, would you still want to get a Legacy Megazord for what it is? And I finally have the Hasbro Megazord in hand, and I gotta say, no, it's not worth it to get yourself a Legacy Megazord. Okay, so now in the interest of fairness, I put essentially the perfect Megazord so far, the Soul of Chogokin Megazord, right in the middle, so you can make comparisons while I'm talking in the video. And I'm gonna make some points as to why the Hasbro Megazord is a much better competitor than the Legacy Megazord ever was. Now, let me just remind the fandom real quick, as early as now in the video, that the Legacy Megazord was a redress, or essentially just a remold in metal, and not even all metal, just metal up like here. Now, let me take that out. Metal here, okay, of the 2010 basic Megazord. So, you know, for people saying that it's a high-end Megazord, no, it's not. It's also a basic Megazord, and one of the worst ones at that, to be honest. It was part of the 2010 line. So it was really just remade into the Legacy So it was really just remade into the Legacy Megazord, and everything that followed, though, was gold. Like the Dragonzord, the Tigerzord, the Thunder Megazord, the Ninja Megazord, the Titanus. All of them were amazing and definitely are, you know, some of the best versions in the franchise. But let's not forget that we as a fandom kept requesting for Bandai to make an actual Legacy Megazord in order to, you know, kind of go with the standards that they set for the releases that followed the Megazord, because really this was nothing. This was not it. Okay, so a lot of people are like, oh, but the quality. Yeah, guys, it's just metal and not really like good die-cast metal at that. It's not particularly aging well, to be honest. But other than that, other than the weight distribution that is very much dismal because of how this is plastic and this is metal, there's a lot of other issues that go with it being really a decade old, or more than a decade old, mold of the Megazord. So let's talk about it. So just talking about the proportions, this is obviously like a 2010 Megazord. If you notice the way that it's built, it's like it was stretched. I kept pointing out to fans how, you know, the original Megazord kind of made it look like this, and how this version kind of stretched it out to make it appear like this. So the kneecaps of the Tyrannosaurus are outward versus being inward in the original Bandai release, and it makes it look weird. The Hasbro one does the same thing, but they have a continuity here a little bit that makes it look a little more normal. But here it just looks like it's out of socket. So for me, that was always weird for me, for the Megazord. And another thing is that the shoulder pads look like they're flying off for some reason. I don't know why they're that high up, but they are that high up. And another thing is the Pterodactyl, if you guys notice. So if you compare it to the other Megazords, this Pterodactyl is way too long on the chest. So those bits I do not like. And there's one other bit that I don't like, which is the kneecaps are lower than they should be. As you can see, they're supposed to be kneecaps on the knees. The Hasbro Megazord repeats this sin. Now, here's the thing. I have this sneaking suspicion that the Hasbro Megazord was designed as a combination Legacy Soul of Chogokin Megazord, and I'll point out some reasons why I think that. So the shoulder pads look very much like the original DX and the Legacy on the Hasbro version, where they kind of taper here on this side, whereas the Soul of Chogokin just kind of flares like that. But if you look at the Pterodactyl chest plates, these two are very similar, right? They're very similar. But then again, I don't know if the Hasbro version copied the Soul of Chogokin one, or if they just went and did the, made it look closer to the show, which is more like this and less like this. And this was kind of the way they had it in the original Bandai release. Now, also, I noticed that, like I said, the kneecaps, there's a hinge here where the kneecap should be higher, but in order to avoid hitting the back end, I suppose, what they did was they lowered that kneecap. They did kind of the same with this. I don't like that, but okay. Yeah, but like another bit that I kept mentioning was the weight distribution on this is dismal. Why? Because other than these tails, which are metal, the legs are all plastic. So in other words, this is top heavy. And it's just weird. Like, I'm afraid for it. I'm surprised it's lasted this long, to be honest. A lot of people are saying quality of plastic, and I kind of agree. Quality of plastic, sure. But if we're talking about the look, definitely there are just too many things that are elongated here in the Legacy version versus the Hasbro version, which looks to be a more faithful rendition of like combination of the toy and the TV show Megazords. Okay, so another thing that leads me to believe that they may have taken cues from the what do you call this? The Legacy Megazord, though, is this Triceratops tail. See that? It's kind of the same. Like, it's one solid piece. Whereas in the DX, won't even, yeah. In the DX and in the Soul of Chogokin, you can actually pivot those launchers. If you also take a look, hold on, at the head sculpts of both the Hasbro and the Soul of Chogokin, they're very similar. Very, very similar. So yeah, I definitely think that this is more of a poor man's Soul of Chogokin than the Legacy version. For the prices this is commanding, it's not worth it anymore, guys. Remember, again, I keep pointing out, this is a basic figure. We wanted them to revise this back when it was still around, when Bandai was still running the show. So yeah, this Hasbro Megazord has a lot of other bits of articulation that is not present in the Legacy Megazord. Like, for example, there's a bit here in the shoulders where it can kind of do a little butterfly upwards. Hold on. Okay, so see that? There's a little bit there, so it can kind of flare its arms out. Unlike the Legacy version, static pose. And here, it's just gonna go forward and back. While in the Hasbro version, you actually have the ability to pivot and go up and down on an elbow joint. So that's a big deal, a big deal. And of course, obviously the Soul of Chogokin one can do that as well, right? And the other bit is another thing that was taken from the Soul of Chogokin, I imagine, is the fact that there's articulation here. There's a cut joint here and here as well. Unfortunately, there is no knee bend. Now, the Soul of Chogokin version has a knee bend. I'm not sure why they didn't factor that in, but the Soul of Chogokin has a little bit of a knee bend, not too much, but a little bit of a knee bend. Now, the next thing that people are going to be telling me is, oh yeah, but X, this has, a lot of missing paint apps or stickers that should have been there in the first place, and I definitely agree with you. So the thing with Hasbro, is that they've been skimping on paint apps a lot lately in the name of, being a basic line, being a budget line. And this is definitely a budget line. I would not disagree. I won't go as far as calling it a Happy Meal toy. I think that's just an insult people like to throw around. But to be honest, it's definitely not a Happy Meal toy. Happy Meal toys would have worse articulation and plastic. This is a much better one. It is a lighter plastic though, but then again, most toys these days do use this lighter plastic. So what I'm saying, I guess, guys, is yeah, if you want a Megazord for yourself, definitely get this one because you'll want it in the future. So just get it. And in the Philippines, it's actually on sale, like in a major way. It's 30% off right now. When I got it, it's like there's 3 components and it's just 600 pesos per component. So that's a major deal. But what about the stickers then? If you're from the US, I would recommend going to BD15 for the decals. Or if you're in the Philippines, go to Megazord Builder Hunter, which is, by the way, going to be part 2 of this video because I'm going to show you what the Hasbro Megazord looks like with the BD15 decals. By the way, it would be nice if Hasbro actually labeled this some other thing than Hasbro Megazord, you know, because there's literally no subline label for it. So it would be very nice if they did that. Now I would, you know, a lot of people have done comparisons of individual Zords and whatnot. I'm not gonna do that anymore because it's been done to death. But really my point is this is not worth it anymore, okay, for the price it's commanding. Remember, it's a basic Megazord. It just happens to be cast in half metal. But if you want a good basic Megazord, get this one. Or if you really want to wait for the Zap release, go for it. But one last thing that I think they did kind of copy off the Legacy Megazord, which I did not like. So see, remember how this Pterodactyl was kind of half-assed? Okay, it's a hollow piece with wings. They kind of did the same thing with the Hasbro Megazord. So I'm not happy about that. So if I could probably like get a 3D printed version like with this bits, let me show you what it's supposed to look like. So this is what a respectable Pterodactyl Zord should look like. And this is what it looks like on the Legacy version, which is a hollow piece of plastic. And on the Hasbro version, for some reason, the Pterodactyl always gets the shaft. I don't know why. I mean, it's just an extra piece of plastic. Really, guys. Even the plastic model kit that was released everywhere except the US, yes, there was one. There was a plastic model kit of Megazord in 5 parts that was released everywhere except the US. Ha ha ha. Anyway, no, I think it was Bandai Asia that released it. So it was a re-release of the Zyuranger plastic model kit, and they had this piece. So I don't understand why, you know, the modern Megazords don't get to have this in basic mode anymore. I understand it's cost cutting, but you know, come on. I mean, look how nice that is with the extra plastic, okay? So, but yeah. So I'm gonna come back and show you guys what this Megazord looks like with decals from, well, I'm getting them from Megazord Builder Hunter. Again, I'm not from the US. Sometimes it seems like that, but I'm not from the US. So Megazord Builder Hunter has some nice decals that I'll be putting on this, and I'll be showing you guys how it looks, and maybe still compare it to the Legacy Megazord, because that's my point all along, which is, you know, don't waste your money on this if you don't have it yet. I mean, if you have it and you still like it, that's great. But if you don't have a budget Megazord or a regular Megazord and you want one, honestly, guys, really get this. It's on Amazon, you know, as a set, I believe. And you can get the components in other stores. Anyway, till next time, peace out.